Welcome to the Insider Podcast at Worldwide Golf. Hello, everyone. Tom Brassell here. Thanks so much for joining us as you do each and every time. You know, Worldwide Golf, home of the 90-day, 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can shop at any of our over 90 retail locations, or you can shop 24/7 at worldwidegolf.com. Our guest today is no newbie to the show. He's not a rookie. He's a wily veteran, Senior Vice President of Golf Ball Marketing for Titleist Golf, Mr. Jeremy Stone. Jeremy joining us from out in his home this time out in Connecticut. Hey, Jeremy, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well, Tom. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate you letting me join from home. We're doing an office renovation, and it's very exciting, but it means I've got to stay away for a couple of days, which is hard for me.
You said it's like Saturday on tour. It's moving day, right?
That's exactly right.
Well, not only is Jeremy, if you're not familiar with this, not only is he our go-to for Titleist golf ball information and knowledge, he's also our go-to for Titleist trivia knowledge. And you shared some trivia with us last time off the air about the white coats. I believe it was Joe Ternessa, right? Back in the day that started that.
Yes,
but
sir.
I wanted to hit you with this one, and I wanted you to see if you can confirm it for us. The script Titleist, that's on the ball, that's on the logo. There was no artificial intelligence back in the 60s, 70s, or whatever. But can you help us with that? Where did the script Titleist originate?
It's a wonderful story, and as with many of the stories at Titleist, extraordinarily authentic to who we are. It comes from Helen Robinson, and she was the executive assistant to Phil Young, our founder. And one day, Phil just asked her to write down the word and the name Titleist. And her penmanship was just exquisite. And so the next thing you know, the team at the time was enamored with how Helen was able to draft and write the word Titleist. And that's been the logo ever since. It's been, smoothed out over time so that we can replicate it on golf balls and replicate it in materials. But it is authentic penmanship. There's no such thing as the Titleist font because it's simply Helen's handwriting.
Well, you're spot on. I mean, penmanship and just perfect. I think of my mother's handwriting and my sister's handwriting and how maybe some of that's been lost. But that's amazing that the logo wasn't generated by any marketing team or anything. It was done by a person.
That's exactly right.
Oh, man. Well, I'm turning the clock back. I was trying to think when you and I first got together. I look back, it was 2016. You were in the wedge division then. I think I heard you on Michael Breed coming in, and I was like, gosh, I got to get this. I got to meet Jeremy Stone. We've been doing this every year or two since then. How many Pro V1 launches have you now been a part of since you've moved over to senior VP role in the ball division?
You're very kind. Always a pleasure to be with you, Tom. You call anytime, and I'm happy to do it. This will be my third Pro V1 launch. So I joined the golf ball business. Well, I joined Titleist 15 years ago, 2010, and I've had a couple of different roles. I've been very fortunate. I rejoined the golf ball business in the fall of 2020. And so that was right as we were gearing up for the introduction of the 2021 Pro V1 and Pro V1x. And so we've now had these 2-year cycles. So 21, 23, and now 25. This is my third Pro V1 and Pro V1x launch.
And it's amazing to me that this is the number one ball in golf, the number one balls in golf with the 1 and the X, and that you keep making them better each time. But are you comfortable talking about where you were back then as a Pro V1 and Pro V1X and where it's come to today? Because obviously some huge strides, the best players in the world are saying yes to it. Most of them not over time. Most of them are doing it immediately. Share with us, if you're comfortable, Jeremy, going back to when you joined that division back then, the ball division, how it's changed.
Happy to. And I think even if you look at these last 3 years, it's quite instructive in terms of how the Pro V1 continues to improve each cycle. When we talk about improvement, we talk about the idea that these innovations build on themselves. And we're celebrating actually 25 years of Pro V1 innovation. It was first introduced in 2000. And so when you see what that means and you recognize how do you make the best ball on earth even better, what you do is you identify that every innovation can open the door for the next one. And so back in 21, when I joined, I was learning about really one of the first core to cover changeovers that the business and the Pro V1 ball has gone through in a while. So in 21, we had a new softer cover, a new softer urethane cover. We also had new aerodynamics for both Pro V1 and Pro V1x. And those two combinations are really what allowed the golf ball to spin a little bit more, but also not have that spin compromise any distance. We also saw improved stability in the wind as a result of that aerodynamic change. What's interesting about that aerodynamic change in 2021, if you go talk to Mike Madsen and you go talk to our aerodynamics team, they had been working on that aerodynamic pattern since 2013. So sometimes these innovations take time for the right construction to connect with the appropriate aerodynamic pattern to maximize distance. That's what our team does. So 21, you have this incredible introduction, new aero, softer cover, and that opened up the opportunity in 2023 for us to explore what is the high gradient core. The high gradient core technology allows us to reduce spin, particularly on long shots. It was really explored for us in two different ways. Number one, high gradient, the best way to think about that is dual core. Dual core, like Pro V1x or left dash, allows you to have a soft inner core and a firmer outer core. There's a differential between the compression of those two cores. That's a gradient. But in 2023, we introduced a high gradient solid core in Pro V1, and that really pulled spin out of the long game shots. And that was introduced in complementary fashion to the improvements made in 2021. Well, what we've done in 2025 is we've improved the speed of both golf balls through a reformulated high gradient core. And you wouldn't have been able to do this if we didn't have the aerodynamic changes in the softer cover of 21. We wouldn't have been able to do this if we didn't have high gradient in 23. But now we're able to add speed to both golf balls. Adding speed also introduces incremental spin, particularly with irons and wedges. But we're able to do that because of the high gradient technology from 23. So you don't get any additional spin off the tee. That way you can maximize distance. So you can really see how each of these innovations and each of these introductions builds on one another to now the number one ball in golf.
When you put this in front of your tour staff, when you're still, I guess you do some of this in beta mode too, right? Before it's released, when you put that in front of them, what consistent feedback did you get from the normal Pro V player and the X player? Do you ever have any that go from one to the other, or is that kind of rare?
We do. We do have folks that will jump back and forth, and that's all related to, a lot of times, two things will drive that change. Number one, if they were right on the edge between a Pro V1 or Pro V1x and the changes to this new golf ball, like I've said, you've got a little bit more spin now coming with the irons. If a golfer was looking for a little bit more spin, but maybe didn't like going all the way to X, but did it for the spin, maybe now they can drop back into a Pro V1 from a spin characteristic standpoint because it's slightly increased as compared to 23. The other reason is they're making changes in their technique. And most often, 40 Pitts and his team out on tour, they get called in when a player makes a technique change that might have through the bag performance implications. And the best path forward to optimize their performance is going to be a golf ball change that will impact every shot in the bag. So we do see those changes. It's why we have a team out on tour every single week. And to give you a sense of timing and when we gather feedback from these players, that team, while they are still seeding new players going into the 25 products, they're also now already in the process of collecting feedback for the future. We're already moving on to 2027. The only way we know we can make meaningful improvements is if we start right now.
Also, Jeremy, when you put it in front of not only your tour staff, but obviously I'm sure you have some amateur testing, some regular old guys. What did they tell you when you put this ball in front of them?
Yeah, so we're always testing with every dedicated golfer. That starts at the tour level. We do the famous white box where we're doing prototype testing and evaluating, but then we also do allow for consumers to get involved through the Team Titleist community. What's most fascinating, whether it's a tour player or an amateur golfer, usually the number one bit of feedback is don't change anything. I love my golf ball, but that's certainly not how we're wired. We have to make sure we understand, well, gosh, hey, why don't you get a little bit greedy? If you could have everything in the world, what would you want? What would you ask for? And our team is quite good at extracting insights from tour players as well as amateurs to say, okay, I know you don't want me to change a thing, but if you had one more thing, one different element, what would that be? And the feedback that led to 25 was, hey, I love this golf ball. It's phenomenal off the tee. I love the distance. Gosh, I wouldn't mind just a little more spin and control, because a lot of times, we think about high spin being a negative, and that's because we're so anchored on the driver, where you're trying to maximize distance through high launch, low spin. But the reality is, spin around the greens equals control. Spin around the greens means you can stop the golf ball closer to the hole. If you're one of those players where the golf ball lands in the middle of the green and rolls off the back, you need spin. And for the most part, tour players and amateurs said, yeah, I would love a little more spin with my irons, but I don't want it with the driver. Keep it the same, because I love what I see off the tee. And so that became then the path forward for our team on 25. And that's what's been delivered in both Pro V1 and Pro V1x.
And you talked about looking for an edge. Even us as just normal everyday golfers, we want something, we're looking for an edge. We're a little greedy. I think, is that where the alignment models came in last year? Because, I mean, we hadn't seen those before, and now alignment models are there in Pro V1.
Yes, we're seeing more and more golfers are trying to customize their golf ball. But most often, yes, there's some fun markings out in the world. And that's why you can always order any customization you want. You can personalize your golf ball. You can put a logo on your golf ball. Our friends at Worldwide Golf Shops and others can absolutely help find you the right way to custom order golf balls, either for yourself or otherwise. But the alignment that's available in these golf shops really came from what are the number one way that tour players, LPGA tour players, and amateurs mark their ball. Well, the number one solution was typically a single straight line or a couple of lines to help golfers line up putts. And so that's what we've offered. Right now, the enhanced alignment is available, where you'll see an extended side stamp with lines above and below the side stamp. But you're also going to see a little bit later this year in golf shops a single line on the opposite side from the side stamp, which was that performance alignment we saw last year. You're going to see that again later this year, and it's going to be available in multiple colors, because who knows? We know that there are golfers who only carry a red Sharpie or a blue Sharpie. We want to make sure golfers have that availability to personalize their golf ball, but have it be anchored and focused on performance.
Which ball is right for me? Which one should I choose? This is where Jeremy's at his best. I love this, because you're always a proponent of going green backwards. I assume you haven't changed your stance on that, but talk about some ways that the golfers could be fit for one of these two golf balls, or maybe, as you brought up earlier, the left ash, or maybe another Titleist ball.
Yes. So green to tee methodology is always our focus, and there's a reason for that. It's what tour players do. We take all of our cues from the best in the world. How do they prepare to compete on the game's greatest stage? And they would go green to tee. And why? Because that's where most of the shots are being struck. They want to trust the feel with their putter. They want to trust the feel and the spin when they start hitting chip shots and pitch shots. They want to understand how that golf ball is going to react around the green, and then backing out into wedge shots, 9 irons, 8 irons, 7 irons. These are our scoring shots. This is where we need to make sure, one, hey, as amateurs, one, we're hitting the green, and two, it's staying on the green. And then finally, we're able to kind of expand that back into the longer game and maximize your distance. The other reason for green to tee methodology is, if you look at clubs, our ability now to adjust a GT driver based on the head model, based on the SureFit setting, based on the shaft, is going to be immense compared to our ability to customize the other 13 clubs in the bag to the degree that you need to fine tune the performance. So if you've found a golf ball that works on the green, that works around the green, and works with your scoring irons, you then want to go to your fitter and say, I play Pro V1x. Let's maximize my driver distance with this golf ball. And the fitter is going to be able to do that. And that's really why our fitting methodology goes green to tee. We know with any Titleist, you can maximize your distance, but we can't guarantee you're going to always be able to fine tune all those different shots around the green unless you spend the time doing it. So how do you do it, right? It can get a little bit complicated. It can be a little overwhelming. My advice is always just understand the flight, the spin, and the feel of your golf ball. Pro V1 is always a great starting point. It has mid-flight, and it has kind of a mid-spin profile in the Titleist golf ball lineup, and it's going to have soft feel because of that solid core construction. Then If you find yourself having the golf ball, as I mentioned earlier, landing on the middle of the green and releasing, you probably need a little bit more height and a little bit more spin. Pro V1X is going to provide that for you. But if the opposite is true, if the golf ball's spinning off the front of the green because you spin Pro V1 too much, you might want to shift to a left dash, which has our lowest spin of any of the Pro V1 golf balls. And then one step lower than that would be the AVX, which is going to be a little lower flying golf ball, but also our lowest spin of those premium urethane covered performance options. That really gives you a great sense of the flight, the spin, the feel. And then you can have some fun customizing that golf ball and really making it your own.
I'll never forget in 2018 when I was fortunate enough to be out at TPI and get fit for a driver by Lucas Pro. He looked at me the first thing, he says, which ball do you play, one or Pro V1X? And don't say it doesn't matter, because it does matter. They're trying to fit you for the driver, and it does matter which ball you're playing.
It's 100% right. And Lucas does such a great job. And again, takes our cues. He's fitting tour players out of the Titleist Performance Institute when they come in. We know what a tour player plays because we're never going to conduct a fitting with the wrong golf ball or just bouncing back and forth between one ball or the other. If you went to a fitting for a driver and you saw a couple hundred RPM difference, that fitter is going to change something because they're going to want to maximize your distance. Well, gee, if that's just coming because you're bouncing back and forth between a Pro V1 and a Pro V1X, now you're getting inconsistency. And look, if we're striving for consistency in this challenging game, the number one way to create that, play the same golf ball. And that doesn't matter whether you're starting with a True Feel golf ball, the lowest price point Titleist golf ball, all the way through a Pro V1. Play the same golf ball. And that way, you know, when something goes wrong, it probably wasn't the golf ball because you know you've consistently played the same ball. And that way you can focus on other variables to try to improve your consistency.
Jeremy, we'll let you get out of here on this one. You've narrowed it down. It's either the Pro V1 or the Pro V1X. There's never been a better time to buy right now. Talk about loyalty rewarded.
Yes, sir. You're exactly right. So one of the best elements and opportunities of the year is happening right now. The Loyalty Rewarded promotion is available at Worldwide Golf Shops. And what that is it's buy 3 dozen golf balls, you get a 4th dozen for free. And it's just an incredible opportunity. You can do that with Pro V1, you can do that with Pro V1X, you can do that with Pro V1X Left Dash or AVX. So all 4 of those golf ball models are available. It does include the new 25 Pro V1 and Pro V1X. And if you want to do it, this is also, we have the option for customization. So whether you want your favorite custom play number, I'm partial to Larry Bird, play number 33, or whether you want to put, your kid's initials on the side of the golf ball, you can really have some fun with it. And all of that gets rolled in. So that 4th dozen is free no matter what you choose to customize that golf ball. So a really incredible opportunity to get ready for the new season.
Jeremy Stone, it's moving day. Thanks for taking time from us, man. You're boxing things up, getting out of here, but you always have time for us. How about some final words for our audience?
Yes, sir, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here. Always. I really appreciate you giving us some time. I would just advise, make this the year you figure out what golf ball's right for you. That's my final advice, right? The most important thing you can do for your game is know how your golf ball is going to perform, and it's the only piece of equipment you use on every golf shot. We know you're spending time on the driver fittings and the iron fittings. Spend a little bit of time figuring out which golf ball is the best because it's going to really help you throughout the year. Tom, y'all do such a great job helping to educate the listeners and educate the customers. We appreciate it greatly and know that we're always here to help whenever we can help clarify some of the challenges of this crazy game we all choose to play.
Jeremy, we've got 9 years of doing this together. Let's make it 10 or 9.5. Let's do it again down the road, my friend. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We know you're busy. And we might be a little late to the Pro V1, Pro V1X party, but not so much with loyalty rewards. We're right on top of it. Thanks for taking the time with us, man.